Annyeong! Hello guys, my name is Jennifer and you are welcome back to my Not So YouTube channel.
Wake up, listen up, smell the coffee. It's yourself holding on you.
So October 9th every year in South Korea is set aside to celebrate the founding and use of Hangul characters. Now, Hangul, of course, was founded by King Sejong, the great King Sejong of the Joseon dynasty, way back in 1446. Well, he started creating the characters in 1443, and he decided to create the characters because at the time, the Koreans were using the Chinese characters. They were speaking Korean, they were speaking their language, but they were using the Chinese characters. And it was so difficult because the Chinese characters had thousands and thousands of characters, so it required a lot of learning, which meant that they needed to do a lot of schooling and all of that. And of course, schooling requires payment. So at the time, most people that could write and read in Korea were the elites, because they were the ones that had the funds to go out of their way to learn the Chinese characters. So King Sejong, being the great man that he is, he took a step back and thought of the whole thing that was going on and just decided that, okay, you know what, let's just have our own characters. Let's just create our own very simple alphabets that people can read and write, something that is unique to us. And there he went and created the Hangul characters. And of course, today it's celebrated always in Korea every October 9th. So here I am today, a Nigerian who started learning the Korean language in 2019. That was last year, September. And I want to share my experience. I want to use this opportunity to share my experience of learning the Korean language. Okay, so I started learning the Korean language, of course, last year, September. And I had registered for a class at the Korean Cultural Center, Nigeria, here in Abuja. And there were 3 classes at the time. There was the beginners 1 class, there was the beginners 1A, and then there was the beginners 1B, and then there was the speaking and writing Korean class. So well, during registration I decided to go for both the speaking and writing class and the beginners 1A class. Little did I know that the speaking and writing class was more for people that had gotten to a certain level of learning Korean. Guys, that was where my story began. Now, of course, beginners 1A class was supposed to teach me the basics of Korean, starting from the Korean alphabet, how to write the Korean alphabet, and how to pronounce them, how to use them, and all of that. That's what the beginners 1A class was about. Now, my teacher for that class was not available when we started because she had traveled, so we were to begin her class later. This meant that I had to start going for my speaking and writing class because the class was already on whilst waiting for the beginners 1A class. So lo and behold, I walk into the speaking and writing class and I discovered that most people in the class are already speaking a little bit of Korean and even understanding a little bit of Korean. And in my head I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? It was so funny, but of course I just decided to wait for the teacher and find out what the class was about. So, well, the teacher came in that first day and she was a very lovely person. She introduced the speaking and writing class to us, and then she found out that it was not just me, that we had about 3 or 4 people that were beginners that were at the bottom level of Korean, that didn't even know jack. So she was like, oh, this class is not for you, this class is supposed to be for more advanced people, but you know what, I'm just going to teach you guys and I'm going to try to come down to your level every now and then. Guys, now the most interesting thing about that particular class was she would normally give spellings and dictations. She would normally do a spellings and dictation exercise for every class. So she said that since that was the first class, she was going to do the spellings and dictation exercise in the next class. So what we were supposed to do was read the new words that we learned in this class so that we would be using it for the spellings and dictation exercise in the next class. And guys, I was like, what? I don't know Jack, I don't even know the alphabet. How do I want to start writing? When you call this word in Korean, how am I supposed to understand? How am I supposed to know the characters that are in the words and then start writing them out? Guys, so I just told myself that, okay, you know what, I'm going to try to do this. And the teacher tried to encourage us. That's the beginners of the beginners in the class. She had told us that don't worry, you can just cram the alphabet. And in my head I'm like, you can just cram the way the words are written. So she always gave us 10 words, 10 new words in every class. So the next class, she came and she started calling the words. It was time for the spellings and dictation, and I was shaking. I had tried, when I went back home, I tried to cram those characters. God knows I tried to cram those characters, but it wasn't as easy as I thought, because everyone was just saying, oh, Korean is easy, oh, Korean is easy. And in my head I'm like, okay, all I could see were lines and circles and blocks. And I was like, okay, so like, how easy is it? How easy can it be? So I took some people's words for it, and I went home and tried to cram those 10 words. Now, in my next class, it was time for us to show ourselves. And they called all the words. And your home girl, I only got 2 words correctly. And the reason I got those 2 words correctly was because they were really, really short. Well, I don't need to talk too much. I'm just going to show you my script. Now I have all my scripts, because after that class I had 2 over 10. 2 over 10 was like my first 2 over 10 was my first score. After that I got 4 over 10. After that, the next one I got 6 or 7 over 10, and it just kept going. And after 7 over 10 I went back again to 5 over 10. And guys, this actually helped me in a way, because every time when my teacher, my beginners 1A teacher, finally came back, she now taught us I now attended my beginners 1A class, so I was able to get the words. So when she taught us the alphabets, I was now able, that was when I started improving in my spellings and dictation class. Because my spellings and dictation class, I was always trying to cram the characters, and some weeks we were not so lucky to have short words. There are some days that she was going to give us short words that you can easily cram, while there were some days that she was going to do spellings and dictation for a whole sentence. Ladies and gentlemen, sentence. Lord. In my head I'm like, wait though, I've not finished learning Igbo, my mother tongue, and here I am like doing spellings and dictation, where, as in how. But do you know the funny thing, I told myself that I needed to get a 10 over 10 in that speaking and writing class, irrespective of the fact that I wasn't high up there in learning the language. And guess what, I did get 10 over 10. And I got 10 over 10 on the 18th of October. You see, it's even almost 1 year old. So let's say like next week now is going to be 1 year since I got 10 over 10 in my spellings and dictation class, my Korean spellings and speaking and writing class, spellings and dictation exercise. Wow. So this is my story, and these are all my scripts from all the spellings and dictation class that I had whilst I was learning, whilst I was in the speaking and writing Korean class. Now, was it easy? Well, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. It's not easy. I'm still learning. It wasn't that easy, but it is. I think why people say that Korean characters are easy is because compared to Japanese and Chinese characters, they are easy, guys. Thank you for me. They are easy. If you can learn Chinese and Japanese, then you can definitely learn Korean. Korean characters are quite easy to comprehend, right? They're quite easy to understand and all of that. So Well, I am so happy and I am so glad to be celebrating the Hangul Proclamation Day. Now, I'll just tell you one fun fact about the Hangul. Now, the Korean language, which is the Hangul in particular, the Korean characters is like the only language in the world where we know the founder, and then we even know the dates that it was founded. There's no such thing with other languages. So today we are celebrating the Hangul Day, and in celebrating the Hangul Day, of course, I'm going to be writing some words in Hangul. I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to be flexing my muscles and showing you how I can write and calligraph. Now, one beautiful thing about the Korean characters is that they are really beautiful. If you have a very fine handwriting and you write the Korean characters, so nice. So of course I'm going to be showing you some characters. I'm going to be flexing my muscles, I'm going to be feeling myself, I'm going to be whipping my hair back and forth just to write the characters that I can write and write some words on paper. So let's go and write some words. So I'll be writing 6 words. The first word I'll be writing is Hangul Day, which is pronounced as Hangul now. The second word I'm going to be writing is Sejong Daehwang, which means Sejong the Great. Remember, like I said earlier, King Sejong is the person that founded the Korean characters. And the third word I'm going to be writing, of course, is Hangul itself. Hangul. The fourth word I'm going to be writing is Honminjogum. Honminjogum. Now, Honminjogum was the former name of Hangul. That was what they called it before it was changed to the name Hangul. Of course, now the next one I'm going to be writing, of course, is my name, Jennifer. Now, the Korean language does not have the F. They don't have the F word. Not the F word in that way that you're thinking about it, but they don't have the pronunciation F. So most times you would always see the F being pronounced as P. So in Korean, my name is going to be pronounced as Jennifer. So you would hear some Korean call me Jennifer, and it's always so cute. And of course, last but not the least, I'm going to be writing my own name. Now, before I write this one, there's something about the Korean language. Yes. Now, the Korean language, another fun fact of the Hangul is that you can write almost anything, almost any pronunciation. You can write, as long as you can pronounce it, most times you can write it in Hangul. That is one flexibility that it has that you don't get with other languages. So, in the light of that, I'm going to be writing my native name, which is Chiamaka, and I'm going to write it in Hangul. So this is how it's written, Chiamaka in Hangul. So with this, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching my video, and of course you can try to write your own alphabet, or you can try to write at least your name in Hangul, and tell me what you think about my video right in the comment box. Thanks for watching. Yeah, bye.